This 17 News at Noon podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Noon podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Well, good day. I'm Elena Rusk. The murder trial against Jacqueline and Trezell West continues today. The California City officer now taking the stand in the case this morning. Officer Brian Hansen testified he became suspicious shortly after responding to the West home for their report of 2 missing children back in December 2020. He said he checked the backyard where the West said Oren and Orson had been playing, but saw no prints made by a child's shoe. This is not a normal situation, Hansen said in a body-worn camera video that was played in court this morning. These kids didn't just walk away, he said. The biggest revelation in this case so far came from the prosecution yesterday, as prosecutor Eric Smith told the jury one of the West's other children said he witnessed one of the boys die and said the other later disappeared after a thud was heard one night. Though the boys' bodies have never been found, the prosecutors say evidence, including interviews with the West's other children, indicates they were killed in September 2020, 3 months before the Wests reported them missing. The Wests charged with second-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and other offenses, and face life terms in prison if convicted. Follow our real-time coverage of the trial from inside the courtroom on our website, kgat.com. And in other court headlines today, the Bakersfield woman who faced 14 counts of felony animal cruelty has been granted entry to a mental health diversion program. Annie Schreiber was arrested in August after authorities had accused her of running an unlicensed boarding and training operation. In all, Bakersfield police say 11 dead dogs were found at 2 houses associated with Schreiber, and 29 dogs and 3 cats suffering from various stages of neglect were seized from other locations connected to her. If Schreiber successfully completes a mental health treatment program and stays out of trouble, her attorney says the charges against her will be dismissed. Well, happening today, it is Vietnam War Veterans Day, the 50th anniversary of U.S. combat troops leaving South Vietnam, and the beginning of the end to the United States' direct military involvement in the Vietnam War. The withdrawal of U.S. troops was one of the key provisions of the Paris Peace Treaty signed in January 1973 by the United States, North and South Vietnam, and the Viet Cong. 2 months later, on March 29th, the last U.S. combat troops left the country. However, about 2,000 American personnel remained in Saigon to aid the South Vietnamese government. The Vietnam War was the longest and most unpopular military engagement in U.S. history, costing 58,000 American lives. Some estimates put the number of Vietnamese military and civilian deaths during that war at around 2 million. Now, to mark this anniversary today, this morning, the Portrait of a Warrior Gallery downtown hosted a ceremonial roll call with Vietnam War veterans and Gold Star family members reading the 178 names of local fallen heroes.
Never forget. Manning, Jerry W. Manning. Marr, John W. Marr.
The motto of the gallery, always remembered, never forgotten. They say by performing this annual roll call of the warriors, Kern County is fulfilling that mission. You can visit the Portrait of a Warrior Gallery today and tomorrow from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. And also tomorrow, show your support for these veterans with a donation drive-by event at Chewy's on Rosedale Highway beginning at 4 p.m. Just swing by to support the vets by honking your horn and dropping some cash, which goes to Honor Flight Kern County. This fundraiser will help pay for local World War II, Korean, and Vietnam War veterans to go to Washington, D.C. to see their memorials and receive honors for their military service. The next honor flight departs Meadows Field on April 18th, with a welcome home celebration to follow on April 20th. It's Jersey Mike's annual Day of Giving. All month long, the sandwich shop chain has been collecting donations for the Bakersfield Ronald McDonald House. All of it leads up to today. 100% of today's sales will go to the charity that serves families of Kern County hospitalized pediatric or NICU patients, giving them a place to stay and warm meals to eat. There are 6 Jersey Mike's locations in Bakersfield. All are participating in this fundraising drive all day today. Since 2011, Jersey Mike's Month of Giving has raised more than $60 million for local charities across the country. Well, in 17 Business News, leaders in Arvin are talking about opening up cannabis shops in town. No one spoke in favor or against the issue at the city council meeting last night, so it was quickly approved for a second hearing at a later date. However, Councilmember Juan Murillo did express some concern about the difficulty of keeping track of cash transactions to make sure the city is getting its revenue from the shops. But the Arvin city manager says if the council approves a dispensary, the best location would be on Bear Mountain Boulevard.
We've decided to recommend Bear Mountain Boulevard for the dispensaries is threefold. Number one, it's a little bit easier for the public to access. Number two, the lighting is much better for people and public safety to see what's going on there. And number three is response time for public safety and police officers. Bear Mountain Boulevard, if something happened and the officers were at the station, they could probably be there in 2 minutes.
Now, the city of Arvin has already had an ordinance in place for cannabis cultivation. However, even though you can cultivate it, you still can't sell it. And that's why the city is looking into creating an amendment to have 2 recreational shops in town. Jones estimates these new shops could bring in nearly $500,000 in tax revenue to the city each year. The final vote will happen at their next city council meeting in April. And today, Mercy Hospital registered nurses held a picket to protest the administration's refusal to address RN's deep concerns about patient care and safe staffing. The nurses work at Common Spirit Dignity Mercy Hospital downtown and Mercy Hospital Southwest. They say they have filed complaints with the California Department of Public Health for missed meal and rest breaks since January of this year. Dignity Health responded to this picket, saying they are deeply committed to the well-being of their staff and patients and cite the pandemic as the reason for these staffing challenges. Now let's talk about some other health headlines because it's being dubbed the holy grail of early detection, a cancer treatment that's able to predict tumors more than a year before they even start to form. The pan-cancer blood test was first developed in 2021. A recent clinical trial showed researchers were able to accurately anticipate the formation of tumors across 25 types of cancer. The new test can also detect the disease up to 18 months ahead of first-stage diagnoses. It can help those who have already been diagnosed, as it can tell exactly which organ the would-be tumor would strike as well before it has even amassed. Incredible there.
Hello, this is Tim Callahan with Clinica Sierra Vista, and we're excited to unveil the Community Health Center of the Future, our comprehensive care center. It's located right across the street from Memorial Hospital. We have every service under one roof, from family medicine, OB/GYN care, dental services for adults and children, behavioral health, and much more. So find your way to better care at Clinica Sierra Vista this year at our comprehensive care center. Visit our website, clinicasierravista.org, for the latest on this project. We'll see you soon.
Well, in other local headlines, the Bakersfield Police Department is asking for the public's help solving 6 unsolved murders. All of them happening between 2018 to 2022. Police believe the killings are all gang-related, and they're hoping that you can help bring justice to the grieving families. The BPD has put together a video on its YouTube channel with details about each cold case. You can find a link to that on our website, kgt.com. Pope Francis has been hospitalized with a lung infection and is reportedly having difficulty breathing. Vatican officials say the Pope will remain in the hospital for several days receiving treatment, but say the pontiff does not have COVID-19. Pope Francis appeared to be okay during a regularly scheduled public appearance earlier today. This lung infection does raise more questions about the overall health of the pontiff. It's unknown if he will be part of any celebrations during Holy Week leading into Easter Sunday next weekend. Meanwhile, this morning, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved selling overdose antidote Narcan over the counter, marking the first time an opioid treatment drug will be available without a prescription. How much this will impact a nationwide overdose crisis is not yet clear, even though better access to Narcan is a priority. The decision means it can be available at convenience and grocery stores, but the price isn't clear yet. 17's Michaela Armstrong will have more on what this means for our community and where you can get your hands on the life-saving nasal spray tonight on 17 News at 5. Now to some other headlines around the state. Economists for a California task force discussing reparations for Black Californians estimate payouts could reach more than $800 billion for harm caused by policing and housing discrimination. That is more than 2.5 times California's annual budget. The State Reparations Task Force will review these numbers in a meeting today. California Governor Gavin Newsom signed legislation creating the panel in 2020, which has until July 1st to submit recommendations on how California can atone for its role in perpetuating damage done by slavery. Ultimately, it's up to lawmakers to decide which reparations to approve, if any. Opponents say California taxpayers are not responsible for slavery. Now, 17's Michaela Armstrong did a special in-depth report on these reparations and how they could impact Kern County. If you agree with reparations or if you don't, she says this coverage is for everyone. Watch that special, Reparations, Let's Talk About It, on our website, kget.com. And now to that school shooting in Nashville as the investigation continues and the community in mourning after the shooting on Monday. The 28-year-old suspect, identified as former Covenant School student Audrey Hale, killed 3 children and 3 adults before being fatally shot by responding police. NBC's Jay Gray is in Nashville with the latest.
Well, the Covenant School just behind us, still locked down at this point. Police and federal agents on campus and continuing to gather evidence, trying to piece together exactly how and why all of this happened. We know that investigators continue to go through what they say are volumes of written material, part of a manifesto that was left behind by the suspect in this case. They've interviewed the suspect's family, and they continue to work through, again, the pieces of what may have led to the attack here, that while this community continues to try and find a way to move forward. We know that they have continued to gather at the school grounds here, hundreds leaving stuffed animals, balloons, cards, many of them in tears, many stopping and bowing their heads or kneeling in a moment of silence for the victims here. And there will be a city-wide memorial later today here in Nashville. Thousands expected to be at that, and it should be a very emotional evening. That is the latest right now from here in Nashville. I'm Jay Gray. Back to you now.
Rhode Island Senator Jack Reed introduced a bill designed to make flying safer for passengers and air crews alike. At the event, Reed stood with airline workers as he talked about the provisions of his bill, with the main point being the establishment of a no-fly list administered by the TSA for passengers who become violent on flights.
And the violence has to stop. 4 years ago, there were about 150 investigations into air rage incidents. Last year, there were 831, and the mask mandate ended last April. Masks have nothing to do with the recent incidents of people trying to open aircraft doors mid-flight or stab crew members with food utensils. These actions would be shocking and unacceptable in any setting. But on an airplane, such behavior can also represent a real threat to all those on board. We must do more to protect employees and the traveling public, and the Protection from Abusive Passengers Act does that. It's very straightforward. Passengers must get on board and follow the rules and not commit acts of violence, or they won't be permitted on commercial aircraft again. It would grant the TSA flexibility to develop this no-fly list and ensure it is fair, transparent, and includes due process and the opportunity for appeal.
Now, Reed did go on to say that airlines already have the right to refuse service to unruly passengers, but offenders can still endanger passengers and personnel on other airlines.
The 17 News at Noon podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.